How's it going, everybody? This is Brian Funk, also known as Afro DJ Mac, and you are listening to the Music Production Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. This is where we talk about making music, being creative, the philosophy behind it, tips, tricks, and all kinds of stuff. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the power of collaboration, and I'm going to give you a homework assignment too. And I'll tell you right now, your homework assignment is to collaborate with somebody. And that could be anybody. It could be somebody on the internet, somebody you know that also does music, or even someone that doesn't. Just get together with somebody, maybe record them saying something, singing a note. It doesn't really matter what you do, but the homework assignment is to create some music with the aid of some other person in some way. And I'll let you have some liberty on what that is. It might even be just asking somebody for a topic to write about, or to create music for a specific mood or feeling, or maybe they'll like I said, create some kind of performance for you, whether it just be them talking and you sample it and use it in your own work, or maybe they play an instrument. I'm going to leave that up to you. It could be in person, it could be on the internet, and I will encourage you also to share this on the Music Production Podcast Facebook page. And maybe you can even find somebody on that Facebook page to collaborate with. I think that'd be really cool, is if listeners get together and collaborate for this assignment. Now, I know as electronic music producers, which many of us are, I don't know if I'm a little bit of both, I guess, acoustic and electronic. So I think I have some perspective about this that might be a little bit different than maybe just someone who's like that bedroom producer kind of working alone on the laptop. It's an awesome thing that you can do. You don't need to worry about too much. After one of my last bands kind of disbanded, one of the kind of fun things I decided was I wanted to work alone and spend some more time just focusing on something that I was doing by myself. And one of the nice things that happened was that I didn't have to consult with other people about my decisions. So if there was a show, I didn't have to ask anybody if they could make the show. It wasn't making all these phone calls. It wasn't trying to organize schedules. If I wanted to rehearse, I would just say, do I want to rehearse? I would say yes, and I would go rehearse. There was no organizing schedules. There was no finding a common time. And all that stuff can be really draining when you're trying to work with other people. And it's been a big factor for me in the last few years to just find time that, coincides with the people I want to work with. But having said that, as much fun as it is to have complete control and be on your own, there's so much to be said for working with other people. And this is really the way I came up personally with my guitar playing days and rock bands and whatnot, is I needed other people, and I still think I do. But that was kind of without question. Even it wasn't even until I got my first 4-track recorder, I was able to kind of do things on my own, but still, it was always with this idea of I'm going to do it with other people down the road. And it's because there's a lot of magic that happens when you work with other people. And I think our art, our music, in its nature, is collaborative because it's meant to be shared. It's meant to be heard by other people. I mean, why else are you producing music? I guess it's fun to, sit in your car and drive around and listen to your own tunes, but ultimately, I think you want other people to hear it. At least I know I do, not to sound I don't know, conceited or something, but I want people to hear it. I want to share it. And I think that's just natural. And collaboration is just such a great way to do some work with other people and expand your ideas and open things up to new possibilities. Over the last few weeks in the summer, I've had the chance to collaborate with a bunch of people, and a lot of people I've never played with before, never done anything with before, and it's been really rewarding. One of the cool things about the people that I've been playing with is that we aren't necessarily in the same kind of musical genres. I've played with people that are very into hip hop, progressive rock, which has been kind of interesting. My brother-in-law and his friends are really into that kind of stuff. So their playing is much different than mine. Very technical and very complicated a lot of times. And it was a lot of fun to just kind of get in there and work with that, to feel their parts and find out where I fit into that. And it's a great discovery thing too, where you kind of learn like where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and what your role can be. And I think that's a really important thing to get a sense of as a musician is to understand a role. I know Miles Davis made a comment where he said, some of the most important parts of what he does is what he doesn't do. Like the notes he doesn't play are the most important. And that space is just great. We had a jam at one point, and it was sort of this revolving jam at a party. And I was playing guitar, but there was another guitar player, there was a keyboard player, a drummer, a bass player. And I found myself playing just two notes over the course of 4 bars. And they were just like these little, like, kind of lead in pickup notes. And I just found like that was what all I needed to do. There's this thing, I guess, where you kind of learn that you don't always have to be doing something. And you kind of, when you're collaborating, it's so important to listen to what other people are doing and play off of them. And I find that that just really helps inform what I'm doing as I'm playing alone. And what happens, I guess, is when you're when you're playing with other people, all the music is happening at once. But when you're playing alone, you're creating things in steps. So you're starting off maybe with a beat and the bass and the chords. And I've always found that I have a tendency to sort of play more on each layer when I'm playing by myself because it's not filled out yet. So there's all that space. So I might like kind of feel like the melody I'm playing needs long sustained notes and they kind of all connect. Whereas when you're doing things that are unfolding in real time, you can leave those spaces. And, that's just one example of kind of an insight I had. And, I get this every time, I think, when I play with other people, because it's very different from being by yourself. And there's lessons to be learned on both ends. And I just think that a lot of the people that I talk to are doing things solo where it's important that you spend some time collaborating. And again, like this could be performing, playing together. It could be other things. It could be just talking. And that's part of what I'm trying to do with this podcast is just get the ideas out and talk and flesh things out in my own head. And it's been really helpful for that. I think, you know, just having this podcast has made me a better musician. I'm sort of conceptualizing things, thinking about it, processing it, and imagining and visualizing things a little bit and getting my ideas straight in my head and then applying that to the music I'm making. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a specific collaboration I've just done, and that was the Whistle Pack for Ableton Live that I created with the guys from Patches. So Dan and Pierce from Patches reached out to me with a really great idea to find people to submit samples of themselves whistling, and we would create sample packs from that. We'd both work on whatever samples we got and create some instruments, put them together, and make this whole pack. And that's exactly what we did. I think it was about the end of June, we put the call out to people and just asked you all to send in samples of yourself whistling. And that was really the only guideline. And I'm glad that it was left pretty open because we got some diversity in our sounds. Some of our samples were really nicely recorded, probably with good mics and clean studio environments. But some of them were done on like simple handheld recorders, iPhones, or like a Zoom field recorder. And they have all different kinds of character to the sounds. And that then transfers really nicely when we created our sample-based instruments inside of Ableton Live. We got a lot of really cool stuff. And in the end, we each made 10 sounds, Patches and I. And we came up with 20 instruments. And they're all free to download. And they're the product of us working together, and not just with each other, though, but with other people. And it was really cool to talk to the guys with Patches and go over, some of the behind the scenes stuffs. How are we going to release it? What are we going to do for the artwork? How are we going to credit people? What are we going to put in the pack itself? And I think we each brought to the table some interesting ideas. And when we put them together, it just made it better than it would have been as if I think either one of us did it on our own. It was more thought out. It was more, I guess, vetted, like the sounds were kind of checked and double checked by each other. And we kind of, I think anyway, bounced off of each other a little bit to create sounds that worked well together and was a variety of sounds. Now, I saw their sounds first, so I guess I can speak to that, where I kind of got an idea of what they did and knew that I was going to do something that complemented it, and I wasn't going to kind of do anything that was almost the same. And we came up with these instruments that I thought were really great. And that's kind of my output for this homework assignment, is working with patches to do this whistle pack. And I just want you to hear some of the sounds. And this is a little bit of an experiment here on the podcast, where I'm kind of playing a little music live, and I don't even know how it's going to turn out yet. And you can let me know if you don't like this, but I think it's kind of interesting just to put some music together on the podcast. And I want you to just hear some of the sounds. So one thing we did, which has nothing to do with whistling when you actually hear it, is create like a percussion pack. So this one instrument that we've got is called glitch percussion, and it's 8 different sounds. There they are. And these all come from whistling samples. Now, how is that a whistling sample? That sound right there. It sounds kind of crazy, right? It's a short little sample that's pitched up 4 octaves. And that gives us this kind of almost like insect sound, where the sample is just being time stretched so much. This one is also pitched up another 4 octaves. And this is one of my favorite things about sampling too, is like magic just starts to happen, like when you start pitching things up and down. You get these sounds that are just nothing like the original. I'll take this down. That's the original sound. I'll pitch it all the way down. Bring it back up. And some of these sounds are just like the background noises that happened in these samples. Really tiny bit of sampling there, and it came out pretty cool when you pitch it around. We got another one here. I'm just going to show you a couple of these. This one I called Memory Door. Now, what's kind of fun about this one is it's got 2 layers to it. And one of it's the actual like kind of sample, the whistling. But I was also given a shaker sample too in this. For whatever reason, the person that submitted this sample decided to put some shaker into it. Clearly violating the rules of a sample pack, but that's the fun thing when you collaborate, is like people decide to do something that you wouldn't think to do. Now, if I would have been doing this on my own, I would have just been sampling whistling. I wouldn't have thrown a shaker in there. But we got the shaker sample, so we decided to use it. And now when you hear this sound, you get this movement, this rhythmic movement. I'm going to turn it up right now. And you can change the speed on it. It's really just an arpeggiator. Bring it back down a little bit. There's some different effects to give it like a shimmer and fun sounds in there. The grain delay especially did a lot, so did the chorus, but it gives us this interesting sound. That one's called Memory Door. This is the Song of the Flying Angel. And you can hear this sounds a little more like a whistle. For this one, I threw on a beat repeat. And the beat repeat has a decay on it, so the pitch decay is one of the things you can do. Like the beat repeat is basically a timed delay that you can really customize, but it's also got this thing called pitch decay, in which you can have the delays pitch down in these little steps. And that's what you're hearing right there, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's like this time-synced pitch delay. I thought it sounded really cool. It adds like this kind of glitch factor to it. A couple of the fun little things going on here. Little dust, and called this one Bubbles. I like it nice and subtle. Gets a little crazy. But this is a nice kind of whistle sound with a little twist. I thought it sounded like falling angels. We've got this little marimba sound. And just a really short sample of whistling with a bit of a, I think there's a pitch decay going on in there. Pitch envelope moving around. At least that's what my ear thinks it hears. Perhaps. No, I'm wrong about that. This is not one I made, but one I love that came from Patches. That's kind of the fun thing too, is as I'm looking at their instruments that Patches made, I'm like, oh wow, that's a really cool way to do this. It's an interesting approach. It's something I wouldn't have done. And for me, I thought I was hearing the pitch decay. It turns out I'm wrong. And now I get to look in here and figure out how they did that, which is a learning experience for me. So now this is not just, again, something I've done and put out there. It's something that I'm also getting. And that's what happens when you work with other people, is you start getting things from them. You watch them play something and you say, oh, wow, I didn't think of going about it that way. And now you've got another tool in your repertoire to use in the future. And this one's called the Melted Piano. I'm going to play for you. And I know this one was recorded on a little micro cassette recorder, which is awesome. I mean, those things sound terrible in a really great way. For a very long time, before, cell phones were cameras and microphones and studios and artist, tools, I carried around a little micro cassette recorder, handheld thing, and I would just always record ideas into it. And I've got tapes and tapes of these things, and they just sound so cool. Like, they sound like they're old already. They're lo-fi, and it does a lot of things that you probably technically shouldn't want to happen to your recording. Like, it's got because the microphone is on the machine itself, it always picks up the sound of the motor running and the tape moving. And I think this sound, you kind of almost hear like the wheels in the tape machine or the playheads or whatever going around. I think it's pretty cool. So it's just a little sample there. What's that? 5 instruments that I'm just showing you here as a result of this collaboration with Patches. So I think it's just a good real world example and, proof to you that I'm also doing my homework, that collaborating with people is really helpful and can really take you to new places. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to, experiment a little bit here with the podcast, and I'll put together a little bit of music, just playing around with these different sounds. It'd be 5 instruments, and just see what comes up. And, if you think this is annoying and stupid, you can tell me in the comments. If you like it, let me know. Leave me a review on iTunes. But again, just to show you like the fun you can have, the inspiration you can unlock when you start working with other people. So let's see how this goes. We'll give it a shot. I'll start out with making some kind of beat here. All right, we'll start with our percussion sounds. There's a little kind of weird things going on here. And just making a little bit of a beat. I'm not going to go too wild with this. Just let this kind of unfold naturally. And we'll just record some chords in here now. Let's get this sound going. There we go. That's the memory door sound. Play around with its filter a little bit. Make it a little more mellow or open it up some. I'm going to move over to my marimba sound, put on some repeat, record. go. This next sound is the Soft Angels. So figure out some notes to play here on this one. And we'll just record it in, see how it comes out. Let it breathe for a second. I let that one go 9 bars, mostly by accident, but I kind of think it's layering in a nice way. And this is the melted piano. And we'll hit record. I'm getting those funny little glitch sounds. And we'll let that kind of do its thing. So, little piece of music there for you, just using this sound. I'm playing around with my controls a little bit here. So, there you have it, folks. I hope that was kind of fun. It's always exciting to make music on the fly and, under pressure. And the cool thing is that none of this could have happened if it wasn't for a collaboration with Patches. And Patches, if you don't know them, definitely check them out, patches.zone. They do all kinds of great releases, lots of really cool tutorials, and free sample packs and all kinds of great stuff that will jumpstart your music production. I also did an interview with them, or a conversation as I like to think of it, a couple episodes back, so I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And again, your homework assignment for this week, I challenge you to collaborate with somebody in some fashion. I say this week, and there's no time limit. Do this whenever you hear it. But find somebody to work with, and it doesn't have to even be a musician, just somebody that has input and ideas. Ask them to do anything. Play along with them. Show them how to hit the push pads or how to hit the keyboard. Play with faders. Do automation. It doesn't matter. Have them suggest a mood or a feeling or an idea, some sort of topic to write about. It's really not important how. It's just the fact that once you get ideas from another person, that's going to change your thinking, and it's going to give you new ways of thinking about your own sounds and your own music. And it's sort of like this just kind of ping pong of ideas where one leads to another. Collaboration is really fun. That's my point of this whole episode. So check it out. Do something. Post it on the Facebook page. That's the Music Production Podcast Facebook page. I think if you just write Music Production Podcast on Facebook, you'll find it. But again, I'll put the show notes over at afrodjmac.com/podcast. That's my page for the Music Production Podcast. And I'd love it if you would share what you're doing. This is our second homework assignment. We had one a little while back to make music with unusual sounds, and there were some cool submissions from that. And I got some nice feedback from people, even if they didn't share their actual music, but just that it inspired them to think a little differently. And that's kind of a big thing I'm trying to do with this show, is to open up your minds, open up my mind, really, especially, and just try out new things. And whether it's these homework assignments or some of the conversations that I have with people. So, again, go collaborate, make music with somebody somehow. Could be in person, could be online. They might not even know that you're using them. Maybe just sneak some recording of somebody when they're not paying attention and make some song out of it and share it with us. So thanks again for listening to the Music Production Podcast. This is Brian Funk. I make music as Afro DJ Mac. If you like the sounds you're hearing right now, that's just 5 of the instruments of the 20 whistle instruments that I made with patches. You can get this at afrodjmac.com. It's the Whistle Pack. It's my, I think, 156th free Ableton Live pack. It's all free, 20 patches that I think are really nice to use in your music. Lots of character with these. And they all come not just from working with patches, but also from working with people like you that were kind enough to submit their samples and to give me something, give patches something to work with and make music with. So thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your day.